Hello to all the good people. Again, another video where I am trying to synchronize the video that I had made in my native in case it helps anyone else, and I will fast forward the parts where there's a lot of joking, but it's difficult to translate, so I will make it shorter and to the point at the cost of being a bit, let's say, sped up. So here we are discussing the pros and cons of powder coating compared to just painting, and the main downside is that the powder coating does require some sanding down because the layer of the paint is thicker, but the upside is that it's a bit more durable compared to paint. And here Miloš has decided to avoid any probability of paint scratching by just first mounting a seat post and then mounting the frame onto the seat post. Now, Miloš is a great man, a great mechanic, a lot better than me, but this is in my workshop, so he's not familiar with where all the tools are after my most recent reorganization. And so a lot of situations come where he's asking me where different tools are, and it's not his fault, or how do I say downside, it's just an objective extra complication for him. And at the time when we were recording this, Miloš had already started working in his own bike shop from morning to late evening, so we didn't spend much time in my workshop over those months. And here he's explaining how you can brake with shear force if you have a stronger vise than this one. If you have a nut like that one and you want it to go further, so you can break off the cap. But in this case my vise is not strong enough, and he didn't want to force and risk breaking it, so he reversed back and went to cut down that part. So that was just for educational purposes. He cut it off, and now we will be using that. That's a special nut bolt for the saddle, because there is a slit in the frame, and the bolt also has a small like a spline that sits in that, so you don't have to hold that part with another tool while you are tightening the seat post. But here he needs to use a bit wider drill to remove all the paint and some old parts of the frame to make it just a bit smoother and easier to work in the future. Okay, and there you can see the slit, and you can see the part of hopefully you can see the part of the bolt where that goes into. I didn't catch it on camera, my bad. Gox does a lot better camera job than I do, but that is the thing with that bolt. However, it is too long, and we ended up replacing it with a shorter bolt. We didn't want to cut it and deburr it. We just replaced it with a shorter bolt that was black and went nicely with the other parts that we put on the bike. So, but we use this one to just mount the frame and hold it in place. This is the anti-seize mounting paste. I've made some videos and articles about mounting paste, so you can see them, and if I forget, remind me to put them in the video's description. And I have also made a forum on BikeGremlin.net forum. I've made a thread about this series of videos for any additional resources and questions and answers. And now the frame is held in place and we can continue working on it. We were in a bit of a, how do I say, rush, because Miloš works 6 days and only Sunday is free, and I was also having a hectic schedule, so in this case we did forget to bring a few parts, and that's why the video I had previously published shows the final procedure. Here we didn't end up completing it all together, and I am uploading these videos in the reversed order. First I uploaded and synchronized the last one, and then this is the second to last, and then I will go on all the way to the first video where we disassemble the bicycle. And here we are discussing and trying various headsets and bearings. A problem is that with these old frames, these were made in former Yugoslavia, and they were not built to some specific standard. Very often you see some dimensions being in between and just fitting to the parts that they had machined or had some other way sourced. And so, for example, we tried several different headset cups and models and systems, and we always had problem either with them not fitting on the fork, the bearing race, the lower race, or the headset cups not fitting in the frame properly, or the height of the entire stack being too high so that we couldn't tighten it properly. And this is what we were going for, but it was too high of a stack, the one that we could find that fits. This is just a picture for representation. So in the end we had to cut a small line of this aluminum beer can using these I have a video about these workshop scissors by Milwaukee. They're awesome. I use them. They're my go-to scissors, and they are in my workshop, and I'm very happy to have them. And here is what we did, and that makes it sit tightly and symmetrically. So we put two of those like small films on each side and made them come out on top, so that we are certain that the race will slide over them. And now that I'm recording this, the bicycle has been ridden for about a month now for daily commutes, and there are no problems with it, and it looks like our hack and say compromise was successful. And here Milos is now installing the headset race, and one more hit for luck, as he said. It looks okay, and as it turned out later, it was okay. He is punching out the headset from another set that had other problems, the stack height problem, so we could not use it. And this is a decent improvised way to punch out the cups from steel frames. I would not recommend it on aluminum or on carbon fiber, but if you do it gradually all around, you can use that to remove cups from a steel frame. I don't have a tool for removing cups for that smaller diameter. I have only for those wider frames that are usually aluminum and carbon, but for these I've been using the method that you've just seen for decades and never had any problems, damage or anything like that, just some common sense and caution. So we went with these cups, and they fit okay. There's no play, even though I was not thrilled to see them not really needing any bearing press. They would just be hand pressed into place, but again we went with what we had, and in this case there was no need to use those aluminum inserts. They were okay, and there's no play in the fork, in the headset, and so it's not ideal, but we are working with what we have. I had my concerns about that, but it has turned out to be fine. Now here Milos is greasing the bearings. I'm trying to rewind this to make the video not last for an hour, and everything, and the principle and all the procedures used in this are demonstrated in my other videos about bicycle assembly and various types of how to say services and procedures for bicycle. I have hundreds of videos, both in my native and in English, but this is just a sort of a encompassing video that employs all those techniques into one bicycle, because it's a full disassembly and reassembly of a bicycle. Here Milos is being careful not to cross thread it. Okay, now here we are explaining that there is a small notch in this washer, and that notch is more visible on the other washer that we showed, and it slides into that slot on the fork, and that keeps that washer from turning to a great degree, so that when you are tightening this lock nut that we are putting now on top, it does not affect the preload that you set with that lower nut that we screwed on, that also has the bearing race for the upper headset cup. I hope I explained it properly. And here I'm explaining that in practice, despite that, I usually need to use those big pliers or a wrench, depending on what the cone, the top cone, is designed on the outside the interface. So I need to keep it in place while I'm tightening the lock nut. Otherwise, it ends up being also tightened, and then there's too much bearing preload. So here it is. Milos is using that to hold it in place, and he will be using the adjustable wrench to tighten it. I have a thin wrench for holding the counter, but I don't use it for tightening the lock nut, because that thin wrench is well thin, and I don't want to risk damaging it and wearing it out sooner than it must be. And now we're testing for preload and play, and we need to fine-tune it, and that's probably a good situation for a separate video. And here Milos is unscrewing the cone nut against the lock nut to eliminate some excessive preload and to make it spin nicely. But the final tuning is done when you install the wheel and the handlebars and the brakes, and then you check for play, and or if it's moving too roughly, and then do the adjustment. That system for cups, for forks that is threaded, is not ideal. It is a bit fiddly to set preload, and those threadless A-head forks and cups and stems are safer and easier to work with. So that's one of the few advantages in the cycling industry over the past decades, that was in fact done to make the parts be more safe and more convenient to work with, basically helping the rider, not being just to make the industry sell stuff easier. And here we are installing the stem, the quill stem. Mounting paste is put on it, and it goes in. And these stickers, for some reason, people in Serbia, the companies always put stickers on everything, and they are difficult to remove. Always a hassle when you're working. And this is just to keep it in place while we're working. It's not the final tightening. We did that in the video that I had uploaded previously, where we have finished the whole setup. I'm increasing the volume in my speakers to hear what we are saying better, and to be able to translate. We found this part, and we liked it. It's some people call it a dork disc, but in this it's very practical, and it helps protect the spokes when a chain flies off the largest sprocket and falls into the spokes. It can happen even if you have a well-tuned bicycle with high quality components, in case you hit something and the derailleur gets bent. so it's not a bad idea, and in this case it's nicely folds into the entire bicycle's aesthetics, and it looks nicely. And this is great because you can see he didn't start properly. It was a bit going cross-threaded. He could feel it going roughly, and he didn't want to push it, force it, so he used the free wheel lock ring to turn it back, and then try again, being careful, nicely aligning it, and here now it goes smoothly. So don't force it. If it's not going smoothly, take a step back, double check if it's all clean, the threads, and if you started really parallel. Okay, so here we are working with the rim tape that we could source in good quality, but it had the opening for a Presta valve, and in this case we wanted to use an automobile or Schrader valve. So what we ended up doing, let me see if did I rewind it too much. What we ended up doing was to make a small cut with a scalpel to enlarge it a little bit, and the round file, in Milos's experience, is a lot more practical and better way to do that. Unfortunately, I did not have that sized round file in my workshop, and and I ordered some relatively recently, and I'm looking to receive them as I'm recording this video. But anyway, I think we didn't catch that part on camera, but that's what we did. And that's what works for me well in practice, using the scalpel to just enlarge the hole a bit, and no problem if you use a little bit of caution. It's okay, no problems for the rim or for the hole. So yeah, yes, here it is the part. Here is the part where Milos is doing that. This is I think it's called a box cutter knife in English, and it's a pretty good knife. I should make a video about that one too. There are many different manufacturers that make those stuff. This is made by Bosch, and it has some nice features, and I bought it actually in a set that has some other nice tools in it, and it was not outrageously expensive. It's far from the cheapest, but it served me very well actually. This is okay, it went in, and then later on there will be no problems. This is mounting the tape, and I entered an insert from a cult film in my native, and that's something that cannot be translated. And so here is he's mounted the tire and the tube and everything. I have separate videos explaining and demonstrating that procedure in detail. He's just making sure that it's properly seated and it's all good. I had already widened the dropouts. I didn't catch that on any videos, that procedure, and some other frame preparations I did manage to record, and I will be uploading that video too, about the frame preparation after the painting was done. Now we are mounting the bottom bracket. I have an article explaining threaded bottom bracket standards. You can Google it, and I also have an article about chainline and how different square taper bottom bracket axle lengths can affect chainline. I also have a video about bottom bracket square taper bottom bracket axle lengths and how to check and align them. So there you can see the details, but here we will show in practice what we're doing. This is just placing some anti-seize mounting paste to prevent it from getting stuck into the frame. And here we screwed it in just by hand, this side, and the other side is still loose. And we want to align the crank, the chainring, and to check for chain line. Did I show checking the chain? No, I'll show it later. I'll show it later in the video. This was obviously too short, and here it is. This is a quick and dirty way to check the ballpark value if you're anywhere near when you're trying out different axle lengths. We just align the ruler that is steel and relatively straight to see where it ends, and we decided to try different. This is showing a screenshot of my website article about chain line, where I added a list showing different dimensions of different. There is the sketch showing what's what in that table. You can find that article, chain line article by Gremlin, on my website. So there's everything you need on my website and on my videos. And here you can admire the mess of my workshop if anyone is interested. Some tools for testing and all sorts of things. Okay, so we went with the longer. I think we went with 122 millimeters long bottom bracket from the same batch, so the left cup is always the same for everyone, and we didn't need to even remove the pre-installed left-handed cup. Did he tighten? Okay, sorry about this. Now we're double checking, and when we tighten it, when it's all aligned in place, it should be perfect. And we are aiming for just outside of the cassette's middle, just like it's usually done on 1-by drivetrains, especially since the front chaining is not too large, and the owner would probably be using the smaller cassette sprockets more often. And so we made a how do I say, a conscious, sensible compromise deliberately. In the end, and I didn't record that, here Milos is trying to remove this ring that limits how far the cranks can be pushed onto the spline with the bolt. But I don't like Shimano making that thing stop it. I prefer to have it stop when it's ridden as much as it can up the splines. But it's not easy to remove on this bottom bracket, so now Milos is just tightening it, and we will install the cranks. I later went on and installed cranks with a chain guard to protect to look nicer and to protect the clothes from getting dirty. So in that final video that I have already uploaded, you can see a different cranks, and that's the only difference, but the chain line was very similar even with those cranks when I installed them, so I did not change the bottom bracket. We left it with 122 bottom bracket, which is technically, let's say for 1-by, it's too long for single speed cranks, but in this case, since we are using a cassette and we have already widened the dropouts, we did need a longer spindle. The Q factor, for those interested, for the rider was okay, and I didn't see any problems with that, and the owner didn't complain, so it's all good as far as we could see. Now the mudguard's installing. Okay, I'm rewinding it. Okay, so here there's a hole just in the frame. There's no thread, so we need to put both a bolt and a nut to keep it in place. That's one. And we're mounting the mudguard mount. And here we have this bracket for holding the mudguards. And I think I double checked. I have a high quality SKS those, and I have a few spares, so even if one does break, which with those SKS I've had good experience, they seem to last long, but if one does break, we'll have a spare to replace it, and there will be no problems for the bicycle's owner, because we were considering to just drill the inside of the mudguard and mount it that way with the bolt and the nut through the mudguard. But in this case we decided to use the washer. As you can see on that inside where the ratchet is, there is a place where we could put a bolt through and mount the mudguard directly. There you can see the hole. So we were considering whether to use that or not, and decided to go with this, in my opinion, more elegant, sleeker looking option. I added extra info for viewers from my country, where I buy different stuff in my city at with good quality at decent prices. None of those is paid adverts. Those companies don't even know probably that I exist, but that's helpful for viewers, but I don't think it makes any sense for anyone outside of my country, so I'm not even trying to translate those and take a lot of time. Here I'm discussing that I'm seriously considering to get this Vera Z-Clop 1/4 inch ratcheting spanner. This one is 3/8, and it's very good universal for bicycle mechanics in general. But sometimes when I need a smaller, I do have a set of smaller those socket ratchets, but I love the flexibility of the head of that Z-Clop, and it's a beautiful tool, and it's my go-to. I made a review of that tool also. You can find it on my channel, Vera Z-Clop bicycle set and something like that is called video. Anyway, it's a good thing to have as an option. It wouldn't be my first choice for ratchets, but and here this is the old system of mounting the rear derailleurs, and it has that part that slides into the dropout, and then this other part just gets tightened in place, and you don't need to apply too much torque because it will be held in place by the wheel. When you mount the wheel, as you can see the part where the wheel presses the nut of the wheel of the axle. It's just to keep it in place while you're mounting everything, basically. Not too loose, of course, but you don't need to use excessive torque. It will strip the threads. Now we need to see about mounting the rear rack. The idea is to have it horizontally when the bicycle is horizontal, and in this case with those vintage frames where people could actually design frames properly and make them with a horizontal top tube, not just make the top tube at an angle wherever it ends up when they finish the frame. So here we could use the top tube as a gauge, as a reference to align it with the top tube, and here we are discussing how to best mount it. And our first choice was not good because we used those big nuts, normal size nuts, but they would prevent, on the cassette side, they would prevent the chain from spinning normally. As you can probably see, it's too close. That nut is too close to the smallest sprocket. So we went with nuts that have a flat top head, bolts, and decided to use the nuts on the outside. And I'm not sure if I caught this on camera. Let's see if you can. Here you can see the nut. That's the head. It's very nice and round and flat, and I have a few of those just for such occasions. I prefer those with a larger head that gives more positive engagement for tools. And unfortunately, Torx bolts of decent quality that are made of that inox stainless steel that don't rust easily, they're not available in my country, not easy to source, so I am working with what I have as a sort of a compromise, and that's life. Here we're tightening the wheel, making sure it's aligned properly. Let's see if I can show how Miloš aligns it. Did we show that in the video? I have a video explaining that too. I won't be bothering you with that too much. You can also see the full version of this in my on my channel BikeGremlin RS in my native, and I'll put links to the thread of the of my forum where that is. Those videos in my native are listed all. I should add that. I will add that to the page where on my forum where I link to these video series. That would be probably more practical, so you just go to one place and see all the extra details. But I hope that I haven't cut out any important parts from this video that you might be interested in seeing. Again, I'm basically just shortening the parts where we are discussing things, sharing our line of thought, and making some very awkward dad jokes that cannot be translated to make any sense whatsoever. So the nuances of different languages and dialects. Here we are mounting the bars, just a rough placement, and in the following video I show how we set it up all to the end eventually. So this is basically the whole video for this take, and we did the rest on a separate on the following week or even two, when we could find the time to assemble the bicycle, because I wanted to record the whole procedure as much as objectively possible in order to help people who ask about those things. I have a lot of questions, especially from the people in my country who like to. There are many such bikes in my country that you can get for a song for $0, but you need to fix them to be rideable. Sometimes they're not in rideable condition, so I wanted to record this whole procedure. It's a very good demonstration of bringing the bike back into riding shape for use, not just for hanging it on the wall for displays. So for use, but using the parts that you can easily source in my country, again, and keep it running. So this is the whole video for this part, and I will continue to make uploads and translations of the previous videos from the series. Thank you very much for watching. Stay cool. I'll see you in some other video. Cheers.